treat this evening on the recovery room. I'm sitting here with Letchen Plessis, who's become somewhat of a CrossFit folk hero here in South Africa over the last couple of years. And she's got a really interesting story that I thought would be cool if she could share with us. And she's also recently completed the comeback program as well. So I've been itching to get your feedback on what your experiences, etc., have been with it. So I thought, let's get you on here. Let's get a little bit of a bio from you. I don't want to butcher your introduction, so I'll let you introduce yourself. And then if you can just tell us a little bit about your background, what's happened, where you've come from, where you are now, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions about comeback. So over to you.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you much for having me. So like you said, I do CrossFit. Yeah, I started doing CrossFit back in 2012. It was it was kind of compulsory through our high school. If you wanted to play sports for the high school, you kind of needed to do CrossFit. And immediately I kind of fell in love with it, but it was kind of as an accessory to my own sport. And then in matric, I got a netball scholarship, and then I decided to go play for Northwest University. I decided to go play for them. And then within 3 months, I got injured. I kind of dislocated my hip on the field, and then had a couple of surgeries about. This is like a very watered down. For those of you who want the rest of my story, it's on my Instagram page, but it's because it's just a very watered down version of it. So I had a couple of surgeries to fix everything that happened on my hip within a span of a year. I had like 3 surgeries, and then the last surgery, about 6 weeks after, I realized something was off with my foot. Like I wasn't allowed to bend by my hips, and then I realized that I have lost function in my foot, because when you're lazy and you want to take your socks off, but you don't want to stand up and take your socks off. You just take your toe and you hook it onto your socks and you just pull it out. So that was what I was doing, because I wasn't allowed to bend by my hips. And then one morning I just couldn't do that. And being 19 years old, you don't think, oh, something is wrong. I just thought, okay, my muscles aren't being worked as much, or my muscles are being dumb. And then about couple of weeks after that, I started losing more and more function all the way up to my hip. And then the whole process began to figure out actually what happened and what is happening. And then finally got diagnosed with CRPS and dystonia about 3 months after the initial symptoms actually started, because they were trying to figure out what happened. And then from there on, the diseases kind of just continued to progress. And then I met an amazing neurosurgeon who put a spinal cord stimulator. So I refer to myself as a semi-bionic human, because he implanted the spinal cord stimulator onto my spinal cord, and then the battery pack is in my underneath the skin, just call it my ab implant, because it's right underneath on my belly. So it's quite visible as well. And yeah, that basically stimulates all the nerves on my left side, because CRPS is a nerve disease and dystonia is a movement disorder. So I still see my neurologist every 3 months, where I get Botox to relax the muscles in that leg, because my leg just contracts. I don't have much function in it. But throughout the journey, I met like amazing couple of people, amazing just amazing brands as well, who made me a brace for my leg that actually can run in. And then met amazing people, obviously like you, Trevor, that came over my path. And yeah, that's just a basic story from where I came. And then I obviously I decided to get back into CrossFit, and from getting back into CrossFit, I qualified for the CrossFit Games now twice already, standing on the podium also twice. Came second came second last year, came third this year. But unfortunately, I got injured a couple of weeks before the games, but I already paid like a whole lot of money to go. So I was just like, screw it, I'm going to compete. And I'm still very lucky that I came third, but obviously came back and had to have surgery to fix all the damage that was done.
Letchen, just quickly, if you can, for some of the people watching this, because I mean, I met you the other day in person, and we talked about what CRP and dystonia actually is, etc. I mean, I've heard of dystonia briefly before. I'm a psychologist. I'm not a physiotherapist or doctor. But it was quite shocking, actually, when you described the symptoms that you had and that pain that you had, and also how you described. I'll let you give the nickname for it. But if you can just describe just to put it in context in terms of actually what you've done and where you've come from, I think it would.
So CRPS is the nickname is the suicide disease, because your nerves basically just it overreacts to basically everything. So I met Trevor the other day, and I was visiting my sister in Cape Town, so I quickly popped in there. And then I described to him, like, one of the stuff that my leg couldn't, like, everybody experiences it differently, but for my case, I couldn't my leg couldn't stand the sensation of hot water or any water running down through it. So my nerves would just basically overreact to it. So I literally had I can't, exposure therapy is the name of the stuff that I did. So I told myself, listen, I have to stand in the shower of running hot water, just running down my leg. And it's not even that hot. It's like shower water, just running down my leg for 5 seconds today. And then 5 seconds the next day. And each week I would like up it by a second. Until it's like now I still really can't stand the sensation, but it's to a point that I can shower without causing too much pain. So it is stuff that you learn, and you learn how to manage it, because it's not stuff that obviously you want to tell everybody you meet and saying, listen, I had to do this and this and this, but it is a quite interesting path, and not all people actually like know that part of the journey, because they only see a leg that doesn't quite function, but they don't see that part and aspects you actually deal by your own that people can't see. So that is one of the aspects of that.
It's I mean, what you went through is, I mean, I would consider it from a real diagnosable, psychologically diagnosable perspective, like trauma. It's really, really traumatic. And for you to come through that and to have achieved what you've achieved, it really is something amazing, Letchen. I'm really not just saying that. I'm not just blowing smoke.
Thank you.
So Letchen, you've recently done the comeback program, which you heard of through a friend of yours, if I'm not mistaken. So let me ask you a couple of questions around why did you decide to join the comeback program?
So like I said, a friend sent me the link, and I went through the website, and it was like, this is kind of something it's kind of something that I need, because I knew that I was going through the next few surgeries and coming from that ultimate high when you're at the pinnacle of your sports and you trained for it for how many months, and now you keep being told, like, listen, 2 years is the next recovery, because I have to have another surgery coming up next year. And just knowing that recovery, obviously, I know, I think I told you that when I met you as well, is I know that recovery is not only it's not only from down here. That's not only the body, it's the mind as well. You kind of like rehab for your mind, and that is very necessary if you want to make like a full recovery. Because you also realize that you kind of have a disconnect at the beginning, or that is in my case, I kind of have a disconnect with my leg, because it causes so much problems. And that is something also through the comeback program you learn how to deal with, and said, like, listen, it's just part of you, it's just part of the journey, learn how to manage it. So
your feelings, basically, and that kind of does translate to bodily neurological function as well, actually, at very simple levels too. Letchen, did you have any sort of hesitations about going onto the comeback program at all?
Actually, no. So I didn't have any hesitations, but I know when speaking to people, they actually do have, because there is a whole, when anyone meets me, I'm not afraid to say that I struggled with mental health in the past. I'm not afraid to say that, because it's not something to be ashamed of. But I know there is a whole stigma behind it, and I know there's a whole And like, you would know there's a whole stigma behind mental health and seeking help for recovery. Like, everybody is so keen, like, oh, I'm going to the physio, but the moment you say I'm seeing someone to fix whatever's going on in my mind or just talking through my emotions, there's a whole stigma around it. And that is one thing that I also try to break, is saying, listen, it's okay to get help for this aspect as well, because it's just an important part for your recovery. So
Is that something that you find even in the CrossFit community? Because I imagine that
yeah,
quite a
yeah,
few serious injuries there through CrossFit as well.
yeah.
And
Yeah, there's a whole lot I think, and it's in any sport, there's a whole, like, you kind of need to be mentally tough, and then there's a disconnect between what mental toughness actually is, and it's much harder to actually ask for help than it is to sit by yourself and wallow in your sorrows.
would you say mental toughness, a part of it would be the ability to ask for help and to
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Know when you have to outsource different aspects that you can't handle anymore.
It's a funny thing that, I mean, there's so much research on this that comes off what we call the biopsychosocial model of understanding, which is actually a model of, it's a model that looks at how disease and wellness are created or maintained. And we know that if there's a biological issue, so something that you'll experience physically always has a psychological and a social component. And something psychological always have a physical and social component. And something social always have a physical and psychological component. And the three kind of interact. There's also another model with or they've added onto it, which is a spiritual component. But that can get a little bit confusing in terms of what's spiritual, what's psychological, etc. So I'm not going to go into that now. Biopsychosocial model is one that's been around for ages, and we know that physical injuries, it has a massive psychological component to it. In fact, the number one trigger for mental distress in all sports, amateur and professional, is injuries. Performance and relationship issues are a distant second and third. But it's something that we really don't look enough into. There's not enough. There are not enough interventions specifically aimed at dealing with the psychology of that injury and that recovery cycle.
Yeah.
So what you've done is quite new, and the thing is, you've kind of learned this through trial and error and the school of hard knocks, really.
Yeah.
As I said, it's inspiring. Anyway, Letchen, what results do you think you've achieved since starting the program? So you finished, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, you actually finished it. It's a 6-week program. So what did you get out of it? What was it like for you?
So I don't like, I think I told you this as well, is I don't like dealing with my emotions. I don't like it. When I feel anxious or I feel angry or something, I would normally just turn it off or just go be busy, not be in the moment, not experience it, just go and do something else. And then that was one thing that, especially through the meditation, where you are forced in a way to sit in that emotion, and then obviously identify the emotions, like you said, identify the emotions, feel where you feel that emotion. And it's actually especially the meditation is still something that I still do. Like, I carry that on through the comeback program, still doing that try and do it every single night.
You're actually still doing some of the meditations that were in there. Which one is your favorite, if I may ask?
The breath work one.
Oh, right.
The one where you have to breathe through your fingers. That is my favorite one.
Some of them are quite fun.
Yeah, that is my favorite one. So that is the stuff that I still use. And then also, Trevor, I told you, like, I swim a whole lot, and then swimming is also kind of my way also to meditate, because it forces you to breathe. And I think that is also why I like the breathwork one so much, is it swimming forces you to breathe in the moment. Obviously I'm in the water for about 2 hours, so what do you think about for 2 hours? So for me, I solve life's problems, and then obviously when solving life problems, you have to think about certain stuff, and then you are kind of forced. You can't just stop and push that aside, because you have to work through it. And that's the same with the meditation. meditation, you can't just push it aside. You visualize yourself, and you make, especially at the start, you kind of see yourself fully healed. Because when I started the comeback program, I was like freshly out of surgery. I think it was like a week out of surgery. So I was kind of, you have to visualize yourself recovering. And that also kind of helps putting it in perspective that, listen, I was operated on 3 months ago, and I can't, like, at the beginning stages, it felt like forever. This is never going to be okay. And then look at where you're now. So yeah.
Exactly. And Letchen, was it difficult for you in the beginning, especially with the guided meditation segments? Because you've got guided meditations, mindfulness, and visualizations. And then, with the guided meditations, was it difficult just straight after you're up to visualize yourself or to imagine yourself
It
being?
actually was, yeah. Yeah, no, it was, especially because that part would get me, like, it would get me, like, not angry but frustrated, because, like I said, that was my 4th hip surgery.
Sure.
So I knew exactly how the recovery was going to be like, but that was my first hip surgery after being diagnosed with the movement disorder. So I don't 100% even know how the recovery looks, and I know that all these protocols that the physios and stuff give out, and I know it's not applicable to me because my body doesn't react like everybody else's. So we take it day by day. So I wouldn't even know how my rest of my recovery would look like. So just visualizing that aspect, knowing that you don't even know, and the physios also, and the doctors also don't even know how your recovery would look like. You kind of have you feel like you have a makeshift image that you are visualizing. And but it did, like I said, it did help a whole lot, because you could get to visualize yourself in a recovery mode. And then there was one where you have to sit in a room at the very start. You have to sit in a room in a comfy chair. And I literally, I visualized myself in a vetsock. I don't know if you know what a vetsock is.
I've literally got a FedSec right next to me here, yeah.
So I visualized myself in a vetsock, and I was like, I'm sitting in a bright sunny room on a vetsock, and I'm feeling calm.
Wow.
So
So look, the next question would be, what did you like best from the system? But I suppose the meditations were.
Yeah, the meditation as well as the tracking, because I'm a very like data person. Like, you can see I have a heart monitor, like, this is called a Whoop. This tracks my sleep, my recovery, my everything. My Garmin I have on me. I track my nutrition. I track basically everything. So I know what goes into my body. I know what I put out. I know how much I sleep. I know all of that. But the one thing that I didn't track was obviously the emotional aspect of it. You track all the physical stuff, but the one thing I didn't track is the emotional aspects. Yeah, I have check-ins with my coach like every week, telling me how was your motivation, how was your mood, but that's every week, it's not every day.
Yeah.
So that aspect was kind of cool, seeing also the fluctuations between because I knew I struggled with sleep a lot, and it's something that I work on a whole lot, because I on a stage like average 5.5 hours of sleep, and that is not good if you're an athlete. You try and aim for like 7 to 8 hours. So I'm getting there. It's now I think 6.5 hours, so it's getting better. But that aspect, seeing how my sleep would impact my mood, that is one aspect that you could track through the progress bar.
Actually having a visual representation of that graph that grows as you
Yeah.
Did you, according to the graph, did you think you gained any hours of sleep on average by the end of the
I did. No, I did, because it is something that I actively tried working on, because I was like, you can't just sleep 5 hours a night. That doesn't work.
actually seeing it triggered something in you to say, listen, I need to actually work on this a little bit more.
Yeah, it is something that that actually my coach also, she always tells me, listen, sleep could get improvement, and then this thing also tells me sleep can get some improvements. And then when actually seeing how, because obviously I see on my weekly assessments from my Whoop, I see, okay, your strain was this, but there's always strain was optimal, sleep can get improvement. That was always my weekly assessment. And then actually seeing how it affected my mood was kind of like setting factors, saying, listen, okay, focus now. You have time to focus and work on your sleep.
But really, it's amazing when you can actually see it visually, you know, which things are correlating with each other.
Yeah.
Letchen, how else, I mean, you've spoken quite a bit about it, but how else do you think you benefited from that 6 weeks?
I think also, I think I told you about it, identifying the emotions that you are feeling, because you are, like I said, I feel frustrated and angry, but I don't have any way, I don't have anything to be angry towards. So I don't have a person. I can be angry towards myself, but that doesn't help. And I can be frustrated, but then you're just frustrated with the situation. And then identifying the emotions that's behind that actual anger and frustration was kind of like the key to figuring out, listen, like, oh, why am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling this? Where am I feeling this? Just grounding yourself in that moment, sitting still, not saying, listen, you're overreacting, this is fine, and carrying on. Just grounding yourself, giving you that chance to feel the emotions, to be human, and then moving on from there. It actually helps a whole lot if you can identify why you're feeling this way.
That's powerful. And being able to just sit in that and going, you know what, an emotion, I can still be angry, but I can still do what I need to do. It doesn't mean that my life is going to sort of fall apart or anything. I'm just angry. You know, if I want to go punch something, that's my decision.
100%.
Understanding emotions is a massive thing, actually, and for sports people in general, you know, because sport's so physically demanding, and it's such a nice way or such an effective way of actually releasing that pent-up anger and frustration and whatnot. It's something that a lot of sports people, especially professionals and high-achieving amateurs, don't get to do, is to actually understand that spectrum of emotion. And it's something that I've seen in my practice a lot with ex-professional athletes, you know, who come and see me and whatnot, that there's definitely a developmental lag, understanding emotions and what their function is and how to use them, etc. So I'm really glad actually that worked for you. And I mean, bearing in mind, it's just 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Start is
Yeah, the start is always the hardest, because you have to obviously develop new habits, because you have to do it every single day. So yeah, this started like just keeping on doing it. It's like I found that the best time it worked for me was at night, especially if there was meditation, the guided meditation and stuff. If it was during the day, I just found myself, I couldn't focus. There was just a whole lot more stuff going on, and then I would just not focus on the meditation at all. And then I realized when I did the comeback program right before going to bed, it actually helped a whole lot, especially like with that, like I said, with my sleep, like falling asleep a whole lot quicker with the meditation. That's why I still continue doing it, because I realized that I get to like fall asleep. I would actually like fall asleep sometimes while meditating, and I feel like that is also for me a big win for that sake, because I don't just lie awake in my bed.
I mean, they're designed to help you relax if you sleep. A couple of people have actually said that. You know, I had a few people contact me who are on the program saying, you know, is it okay if I sleep during the meditation? I'm like, of course, sleep during the meditation. Obviously, not if you're doing it between work or whatnot, but at night.
Yeah.
That's great, Letchen. Letchen, just one more question, really. What do you think the most important thing people should know about working with Comeback, and if they work with me eventually?
I think the most important part, like I said, is sticking with it. Like it's gonna be like you're gonna unearth some emotions and stuff that it's not likely to go back and feel all the emotions you felt getting injured and all that stuff. It's not, but luckily the program, it stops before like going into too deep, and then it silently guides you back to earth and you'll be fine. But sticking with it from the start and not feeling like, oh, this is just another task I need to do at the end of the day. And one thing I said to you also that kind of stuck with me is I don't need to compete now. So you don't have to do this program in order to, not in order, but you don't have to do this program with training or competition in mind. You can literally just do it and relax and they just focus on the recovery aspect, because it's not like especially at the start, you kind of feel like, okay, this is just another thing I have to tick off my list for today. But at the end, when sticking with it, it kind of, you realize the big picture and the whole journey that it takes you through. So just sticking with it from the start is actually going to help a whole lot.
It's not just about the injury, it actually becomes about you.
Yeah.
In your totality. The whole program was designed to increase self-awareness. And if you can get to know yourself, you know what you stand for and what you don't stand for, and you can start making decisions for yourself. And when tragedy comes by, because things will happen in life, there's ways to lean on.
Yeah, and most people, that is what makes them feel uncomfortable. And that's kind of when the moment you kind of feel uncomfortable is the moment you have to kind of push through it. And not just write down, especially in the journaling task, just write down like wishy-washy stuff. Like actually write down what you're feeling, because that is going to make a big difference.
It's tempting to do the wishy-washy.
Yeah, it is.
So what's next for you then? You've still got another surgery to go, and then how long after that are you going to be back? When will you wow us with your
Yeah, so like I said, I still have another surgery. So this surgery's recovery is about 6 to 9 months, and then they said they can only do the next surgery when whatever they did now is fully recovered, then they can do the next one. And then that one is also a 6 to 9 month recovery. But so 2024, when the CrossFit Games is in Birmingham, Alabama, and not in Madison, Wisconsin, because next year is the last year that it's been in Madison, I think for 5 or 6 years now. And then next year is the last year it's going to be in Madison. So I kind of told myself, listen, I've been there, done that. I've seen literally everything there is to see in Madison. I ate all the cheese curds that you can eat. You can. There's not a place. I walked the streets of the capital up and down. It's such a beautiful place, but it is very, because obviously CrossFit you fund yourself with the help of some sponsors, but yeah, it's kind of it is a lot of money. So I would much rather, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise that I don't have to go to Madison again. I get to see, if I qualify for the next games, I get to see a whole other place of America. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to I went to Miami as well in January. So I've been able to travel a whole lot in regards with CrossFit. But at this moment, like I said, I'm enjoying swimming. So I'm doing the Freedom Swim in February. So it's you swim from Robben Island all the way to Big Bay. So it's like a 7.5 kilometer ocean swim.
Okay.
So it's gonna be fun, I think. So yeah, and I can't swim with my legs. I only swim with my arms, because my left leg obviously has a movement disorders, and water is not a fan. My leg's not a big fan of water. But luckily, when it's in the water, in cold water, it doesn't act up all too much. So I just basically swim with my arms. So it's gonna be a fun time.
Sounds riveting and amazing.
Yeah.
And you'll come and visit when you're down here again, definitely.
100%. No, 100%. I really like check what plane tickets is gonna cost me again, because it's just, it is so beautiful down there. Like, yeah, I have a little bit of like a stream going through going past my apartment, but it's not the same as seeing the ocean the whole time.
Letchen, listen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It was really nice to chat again. And I really mean it. You are such an inspiration to so many people. And it's been an absolute privilege working with you and listening to you and just hearing about your story and what you've done, seriously. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, or anything before you go? Any questions you have?
No, not really. I just hope that like this can reach a whole lot more people, because obviously, like I said, the stigma behind mental health, especially in athletes, is kind of something that I think not most people, not even if you're injured, just the overall mental health aspect of athletes, I think is something that we as athletes also kind of neglect. And that's why I'm so open about it, because it's something that you have to work on. And like I said, mental toughness, not just the part of grinding through the work, it's actually asking for help when you realize you need it. So
Exactly. No, we're getting there. We're
yeah.
fighting. People are coming around and seeing the benefits of these types of things.
That's fantastic.
Well, listen, lovely to catch up, and thanks so much again. And we'll chat soon.
Yes, thank you.